Hello everyone, this is Anushka Maan and welcome back to my channel. CAT 2025 is finally done and dusted. SNAP is also done. NMAT is also done. I think XAT is upcoming. All these entrance exams, the written exams for the B schools, they are all done and dusted, and I really hope you all did a good job and you all are really happy with the results and all the things that have come your way. So now comes the next leg of preparation for joining a B school, that is the interview preparation. So now what I've decided is that I'm going to create a series of videos which is going to act as like a compact sort of preparatory kit for you, so that I'm going to put out every single thing that I know from my own experience, not just before B school but after B school, all the tips, tricks, preparation hacks that are going to help you frame your answers better for the B school interviews. I'll share what to study, what not to study, where to study from for the B school for the B school interviews, how to prepare, how to write the applications and the essays that you will be supposed to write. So I'll create a sort of preparatory kit that is going to help you not just in acing the B school interviews, but also later when you join the B schools and you sit for placements. This is going to help you in all those aspects. And also, there is this one more thing that I'm going to start. For every video, I'm going to put out a Google form, and the first 5 to 7 people who are going to fill out that form, I'm going to review your answers. Like for example, in today's video, I'm going to tell you how to frame the most important question of B school interviews. That is, tell me about something about yourself. How do you make an introduction which is compelling and tells everything about you in just 1 minute and makes you that ideal candidate that the B school people would want to actually hire and would actually want to have in their B schools. So for this video, I'm going to put the link for the Google form in the description down below, and I'll also pin in the comments. So the first 5 to 7 people who fill out the Google forms, I'll personally review your answers, and a similar practice I'm going to follow in all the subsequent videos, so that basis my capacity and basis the time that I have, I can help you guys out personally in framing your answers better. So the first question that is asked in any interview, not just for the B school entrances, but also later when you sit for your summer placements or autumn or final placements. So the first question that anybody asks is, tell me about yourself. So essentially what they do is that when you are speaking this answer, they are reviewing your CVs. A lot of times they generally don't have time to read your CVs beforehand. So that is their time to skim through the CVs. So two things are very important to keep in mind before you start framing your answer. Number one, the answer has to be within 60 seconds. 1 minute to max 1.5 minutes if you have something extra to say, but not more than that. Because beyond that, the interviewers would get bored, and also essentially if they have just 10 minutes to interview you, they would not want to spend so much time on just the interview, on just the introduction part, right? So first thing to keep in mind, not just for this answer but for any answer, do not exceed the 1 minute mark. Make sure that your answers are framed that way. And second thing is that never utter a word or never speak a word which you don't know about, especially when it comes to tell me something about yourself. This is essentially your chance. The interviewer is giving you the chance that, okay, I'm giving you the chance to highlight the things that I want to see in your CV, in your experience. And if you say certain things that you are not very confident about in your introduction itself, then you are going to steer the entire interview in the wrong direction. Like for example, in my TMAY, now that I have formed it now, TMAY is essentially tell me something about yourself, short for that. So I used to talk a lot about, I used to devote 1 to 2 lines for my YouTube channel, and trust me, 9 out of 10 interviews, they all went along in the direction of my YouTube journey, why I started it, what was the inspiration, what kind of content I put out, how is it going, what do you see in future. So it was very easy for me to, tackle those questions because this is something that I'm very confident about. So I used to steer the conversation or steer the entire interview around my strength. So make sure that whatever you mention in your TMAY, it's something that you really want to talk about and you can talk about comfortably. Okay? Now, these were the baseline tips that you have to follow for your TMAY. Now, what to actually write in that? So, for that, what should a good TMI essentially incorporate is, first of all, your academics, like where did you did your schooling from and your undergrad from. If you had any academic achievements in that, you can club it together. If you have work experience, then what was your work experience, where were you working, and what was your role, and maybe mention some achievements. Third thing that you can mention is some extracurricular, some really amazing achievements. If you want to highlight them, mention them there. Fourth thing is about the hobbies that you have. Like, for example, for me, it was essentially traveling, it was reading, I also wrote poetry and stuff. So that is something that you can also mention in your TMAY. Your TMAY should not just be about one part. It should talk about you as a holistic person. So either your TMAY has to follow an ascending order or a descending order of your life trajectory. Like, for example, I'll tell you how my TMAY used to look like before joining SP. So I started off by telling people that, hello everyone, my name is Anushka Maan and I come from Delhi. Then I used to talk about my undergrad, that I did my undergrad in this subject from this college, and there I was also the batch topper for this particular year. Then moving on to, I would talk about at that point of time I was a fresher, I did not have a lot of work experience or other things to talk about. So as to talk about my position of responsibilities that I used to hold or any such activity that I did during my undergrad. Like, for example, during my time in undergrad, I used to work as a digital team coordinator for this society, or I was part of the literary society and I was working on these things. So I used to talk about in just 1 or 2 lines about what were the PORs or the extracurricular activities that I did in the undergrad part, because I was a fresher. So then moving on to, in the end, I used to talk about my hobbies, that is like traveling and where all I have traveled, and how I love writing poetry, how I also love reading and all these stuff. So basically, if you see my introduction as a fresher, it included my academics, it included my extracurriculars and PORs, and then in the end, I talked about my hobbies and wrapped it up. So all my interviews, they essentially focused on the experience I had during my undergrad, like all the society work and etc. that I had done. Now, on the other hand, the peers of mine who had work experience, how they used to talk about was, either they used to start with their work experience, that, hello, my name is this and I come from this place. I worked at this particular company as, say, a software engineer, where I was working on these aspects. Then the person talks about, I had done my engineering from or like whatever course they were working on from this college, where I was part of this society, I achieved this academic achievement, I was a topper here. Like, talk about all the main things about what you did in your undergrad. Then in the end with some hobbies, like I like to play guitar, or maybe I like to read, I like sports, and I've also achieved certain things in it, something like that. So you see how the entire TMAY, whether it's for a fresher or whether it's for a person with work experience, it talks about them as a holistic person. They are talking about their academics, their ECAs and PORs, and also their hobbies. So that is how, and it can also be in an ascending or a descending order. Like, either it can be starting from what you did last and then go in a sequence, or what you did first, like your schooling or college, and then come down to other aspects. But make sure it also follows always follows a chronological sequence. It shouldn't be that you're talking about school, then work experience, then college, then it becomes very haphazard. And make it very crisp and to the point, and ensure that your TMAY, it fits in a 1-minute thing. Now, I know that it sounds very intimidating, and trust me, this is the question that really makes or breaks your interview, because it decides the trajectory of the entire discussion you're going to have with your interviewers. So make sure that you spend a lot of time and you start building your answers now. Even now that now I'm in a B school, I'm about to enter my MBA. Whenever I used to sit down, like even for my placements or whatever, I used to sit down to write my TMAY. It used to take me a lot of reiterations, lot of corrections to actually reach that point where I'm like very satisfied with my answer. जिसको सुनकर ऐसे लगे कि wow, what a nice person. I would want to know more about this person. That is what your introduction should reflect. So these are some tips and tricks to formulate your TMAY. If you have any doubts, anything you want to ask, put your questions in the comments down below. I would love to answer them all. And apart from that, I'm also putting the Google form link in the description and in the comments. So the first 5 to 7 people, I'll make sure I put out the list. Those people, I'll personally review your answers for you and help you in framing your answers to perfection. So see you in the next video. All the very best. Bye-bye.